Yo, what's up, guys? It's Sukayum here, and today we're doing What If Bardock Went to Earth with Goku. Now, we begin the story with kind of a flashback from the last part. So if you don't remember, don't worry, I want you to watch it, but you don't have to watch it. Basically, Bardock was in space while Goku was fighting King Piccolo. And if you noticed, and if you know OG Dragon Ball, there was no Red Ribbon Army arc. And now, no, I did not forget, there's actually a pretty big reason for that. So in part one, Bardock had went to a bunch of different billionaires and things to get funded, and get his ship fixed or just get a new ship built. So before he went to the Breeze family, he actually went to the Red Ribbon Army. In the Red Ribbon Army, they tried to develop a ship for him, but they couldn't. And Bardock got mad at them. He was like, "You guys are useless. I should just blow you guys all up right now." And then they begged for him to save him, and they were like, we could develop a powerful training program or whatever you want. And then Bardock was like, "I want you to make me a gravity room, right?" So then he goes to the Breeze family, and then everything happens in part one that happens in part one. Then while Bardock's in space, this is where things actually go down. So Bardock goes to space, and he takes over a random Frieza ship that he sees that's far away from the rest. So he goes to dock, and the Frieza soldiers are like, "Who are you? And why are you trying to dock on this ship?" And then Bardock doesn't answer on the comms. So they're like, "Okay, we'll just arrest this guy because he thinks he's tough." So they open the doors, and they look around, and there's nobody in the ship before the ship closes, and they're locked inside the ship. Then they get blasted out through the airlock, and that's like half the crew gone. So Bardock goes into the main research room that holds most of the information, and he looks up the word Saiyans. So he sees on the thing that Frieza had actually blown up the planet, right? Because I'm gonna say that this was like a more high profile ship. So in order to hide it from Vegeta and Nappa and Raditz, on low profile ships it says a asteroid destroyed planet Vegeta, but on the high profile ships with officers and stuff, it's gonna say that Frieza blew up the planet because they have no reason to hide it. So then Bardock is like, "I figured that this would happen. Like, they should have listened to me." But he's kind of just annoyed about the arrogance of the Saiyans and how they got destroyed. So he looks up Saiyans, and he looks down, and he also sees that there's actually a couple Saiyans alive. He sees that there's Nappa, and then he sees Prince Vegeta, and then he sees his son Raz is alive, and he sees that they're all in that one Saiyan squad together. And he reads, and then he could see all their descriptions and power levels. He sees that Nappa's around power level 5,000, Vegeta's power level around 14,000, or sorry, 18,000, and Raditz's power level 1,500. And so he wonders if he can go and he can find Raditz, but he has to take them away from the prince and Nappa because he doesn't know if he can trust them. However, Bardock does not think that this is the time that he should go and get Raditz, so he decides to return to Earth before slaughtering everybody on the spaceship because he can't let that get out. Now, the people on the airlock who got thrown out the airlock on Bardock's ship that was captured by the bigger Frieza ship, they actually survived. And Bardock tried looking for the ship, but he was like, "Damn it, I'm such an idiot, I forgot to kill them." So he's a little annoyed, and they're gonna know that another Saiyan's alive and that he commandeered the ship. So eventually Frieza is gonna find out, and when Frieza finds out, he calls up all three Saiyans, and he's like, "Did you guys know that there was another Saiyan alive?" And then all of them are shocked, and then they give a description of him. He had spiky hair, and he had a tail, but he wasn't wearing Saiyan armor. And Frieza was like, "Thank you, that was very helpful." Saiyan with spiky hair and a tail. And they're like, "No problem, sir." And they ran away. So Vegeta's like, "I didn't know about any Saiyan, and the fact that he's not serving me means he's a traitor." And then Frieza's like, "Very good, I'm happy you see it that way, Vegeta, and I would like you to track down the Saiyan and kill him." And then Vegeta's like, "Yes, of course, Frieza." But in his mind, he's like, maybe we could use another Saiyan to kill him, and potentially there's more Saiyans. So the more Saiyans we have, the more Saiyans we have to kill Frieza. Now we cut back to Earth, and Goku is just chilling with Kami and the little kid Piccolo. And Piccolo's it's kind of like, he's still kind of bad, but we know that Piccolo could be turned good, so he's becoming better and better. Right now, he's just like a rowdy kid. And he kind of reminds Goku of when he was younger. So, you know, it kind of gives him nostalgia of when he was living with his grandpa Gohan and his father. Now, Kami is teaching Goku, like, spirit control and, you know, concentration, meditation, how to be calm. And it's really helping Goku. He has a little bit of a tougher time in this because he's more of a rational thinker. But I think we would see like the canon Goku shine through because, you know, that's Goku's personality, be chilled and laid back. He just thinks a little more because he's not as goofy, but it's not as much as Vegeta to where it would hinder him to get something like Ultra Instinct or something like that. But he does have a little tougher time learning meditation, but once he does, he's he's a natural at it. So then he also learns how to sense ki, and he learns how to you know, fight in the way like Mr. Popo and Kami teaches him. So he learns new martial arts techniques and things like that. And then he does go to the Room of Spirit time, and this time he goes with Piccolo Jr. So him and Piccolo Jr. actually train together for I would say about 2 months in Room of Spirit time, and they come out, you know, both of them are stronger. And this is where I'm going to discuss power levels. So Goku, I'd say, is about a power level of, well, let's say Bardock hasn't been back in about 2 months at this time, and he trained for another 2 months in the Room of Spirit time, so that's about 4 months of training with Kami, who's pretty strong, and with a decent training partner in Piccolo Jr. So we'll say about a power level of 450. Mind you, his power level before was 325, so power level 450 and light training is not that bad. I think that's a pretty mild power increase, and that's because, well, for the rest of Dragon Ball, like the original Dragon Ball, there's not gonna be much threats to him, except for the Red Ribbon Army. Since Bardock has not returned, they start, you know, developing weapons because they're like, you know, that really strong guy hasn't returned, so now we can make our plan. So they make a play for the Dragon Balls, but, you know, they soon find out that they're not reactivated and have to wait another 8 months. And if you remember, it's because Piccolo Jr. had used the Dragon Balls 4 months prior, so they had to wait 8 months until the Dragon Balls come back, and they have no way of tracking them. So they kind of like shoot themselves in the foot with their own poor insight. So we actually see a younger Dr. Gero say that he doesn't need the Dragon Balls, and he just needs to develop cybernetic humans. And the other leaders are kind of creeped out by this. You know, he has like 1 or 2 androids that he has, but they're kind of more normal and not that powerful, and they don't really like his idea. He thinks he's kind of a creep, so they like put him on hold with the idea. But Gero actually does start developing those little bugs that do connect like DNA samples of people. So Goku has his DNA collected, not Bardock yet because he had just collected the bugs. Kami, Piccolo, Roshi, Krillin, Tien, you know, everybody in canon. And also Goku did actually meet like Oolong and Puar and Yamcha and all of them, because he did actually go on his original trip, but it was just easier. And most of those people like Oolong who try to fight him, he got hit by Goku once, and he was like, damn, that hurt. And then he kind of joined Goku's side after that, and Goku accepted him because he was like, he just, I don't know, Bulma like begged him to let him go. So then and then Yamcha stuck along because he had a crush on Bulma, and he also wanted to get the Dragon Balls for himself. And when he tries to steal the Dragon Balls, you know, Goku. But anyways, let's get back into, we're actually gonna cut back to when Bardock comes back, and Red Ribbon Army approaches him, and they're like, oh, we built this gravity room, and we've also, you know, have a plan to take over Earth to make it more orderly. And then Bardock, he's like, I have no interest in empires or fighting wars for them. You guys could fight your own war. And then Bardock, you know, he picks up the gravity chamber, because actually the gravity chamber is like this portable thing that he could pick up. It's not like built into the ground, so it's kind of like a spaceship, but instead it's kind of like Goku's gravity chamber is a spaceship, but it's like just a gravity chamber, not a spaceship. So then he takes it like over to Mount Piatsu, where he lives currently with Grandpa Gohan, and he asks Gohan where Goku is. And Gohan's like, oh, Goku's with Kami. And then Bardock is like, where's that? He's like, it's on the lookout. So, you know, he looks all over the world until he finds the like Native Americans, I think, guys, like, and they tell him he has to go up the tower. So he runs into Korin, and Korin, you know, he's like, oh yeah, I saw like a miniature version of you a while back, and he was going up there with Kami, and they said hi. And then he's like, you just have to go more up. And he's like, okay. So he goes up, and he stopped by Mr. Popo. Mr. Popo's like, what's your reason for being here? And then Bardock is like, I'm here to see my son. I heard that he's up here training. So then, you know, Goku feels like a really large power level, and exactly when he comes out the room of spirit time, and then Bardock sees him, and he sees like a little green Namekian. He's like, what the hell, Namekian? And then he sees Kami, an old Namekian, and he's like, why is there so many Namekians here? Because remember, he wasn't here when King Piccolo arrived. So Bardock is like, okay, no, Kakarot, it's time that I actually start to take your training seriously. So he's like, I don't have a scouter, but I'm not sure how strong you are right now. And then Goku's like, other than you, I'm the strongest person on this planet. And then Bardock says, that's not really saying much considering how weak everybody else is. And you know, Piccolo Jr. gets annoyed. He's like these freaking monkey-tailed people. And then, you know, Kami doesn't really care about the same man. Mr. Popo doesn't care either. So then, you know, he's like, I have a new training device and you're gonna come with me. And then they go and they train in the time chamber. Not the time chamber, I'm sorry. The gravity room. So Bardock and Goku train for the next 2 years every day in the gravity room just to get stronger. And then this would be about the time when the tournament starts, where we see Piccolo Jr. for the first time in the original manga, and then Goku looks like an adult now. So Goku does not actually go to the tournament, and only it's like Krillin, Tien, Yamcha, and Piccolo Jr. actually does go, and then Master Roshi watches, and then everyone else is his fodder. So it's just between basically Tien, Krillin, and Piccolo Jr. And the finals is between Tien and Piccolo Jr. and Piccolo Jr. wipes Tien off the map. Like it's honestly sad to see, because remember, Piccolo Jr. actually trained with Goku, and this is a stronger Goku. So Piccolo Jr. is actually way stronger. I would put him at a power level of around 375. Now, how strong is Goku right now? Goku, after training with a year with Bardock, who's at a power level of 10,000 in a gravity room, has a power level of about 12,000. Now you might be like, what? Are you crazy? Mind you, when he was dead, he trained with King Kai for a year, who has a similar power level of 10,000 in times 10 gravity with non-adjustable gravity. And also, King Kai's not saying who sparred with him. He sparred by himself and he learned techniques. I think a stronger Goku, right now, it's honestly a nerf. A stronger Goku with a gravity chamber and his father to teach him would reach a power level of 12,000 easily. But I still want to make the scenes kind of a challenge, so I'm not gonna make them too overpowered yet. And Bardock is about a power level of 35,000. And I think that's a pretty fair multiplier for him. So after, you know, their training, Gohan, who's pretty impressed by Goku's power level, and Goku actually teaches Bardock how to sense power, so he doesn't have to rely on a scouter. So he knows where he compared to Goku is, and he thinks Goku's strong enough to actually, you know, fight, you know, Saiyans and Frieza's forces. So then Grandpa Gohan is like, you know, you should train with my master Roshi. And then Goku's like, I should? Like, I mean, that sounds good to me, right? And then Goku's like, okay, will you make me stronger? And then Grandpa Gohan tells him, like, it's not always about strength. Sometimes it's about technique and finesse. You can't just, you know, you're not always gonna be the strongest Goku, as you could tell by your father. And you need to learn how to overcome stronger opponents. And Bardock actually thinks this is a good skill for Goku to learn. So he sends Goku to learn with Master Roshi for about 6 months. So after the 6 months is up, Goku gets to a power level of about 12,200 with a 200 power increase, and he learns the Kamehameha and some of Master Roshi's, you know, techniques. And then, you know, he gets closer with Krillin and all of them, and then he also meets Tien, who took Goku's place. because he trained with the Crane School, and then after he finds out that they're bad, because Krillin actually reforms him, and he sees how strong Goku is, he wants to learn with Master Roshi, and he leaves the Korean school, and also Chaozu does too. So he meets both of them, and then Krillin is actually impressed by Goku's strength. Tien is kind of jealous, and Chaozu, he doesn't really care. He's kind of just weak. So we do a multiple year time skip and past the tournament that was in the original, because Goku doesn't go, and we go to where Raditz would arrive, and Raditz actually does arrive to the planet, and the reason why Raditz didn't arrive with Goku and Bardock was because he was on a mission with Vegeta, and also Bardock didn't have time to tell Raditz that he was on Earth, and he couldn't risk communicating that with him because he didn't want Frieza to find out. So Raditz finds out that Goku's on Earth in the original, in person, and then he isn't able to tell Raditz that they're actually going with him, or else he would have, gotten Raditz to come with him. And at this point, I think Bardock knows that DNA is no longer alive. He doesn't know how, but he just assumes that she wasn't able to make it out, and that she was somehow killed by Frieza or Frieza's soldier. Now, not Bardock. What's his fucking? Now Raditz arrives, and Raditz is power level 1500, and he goes and he sees Piccolo, who in this timeline has a power level of about 800 because he hasn't been training with Goku regularly. He's been training with more of Kami and the humans and Master Roshi. So he still doesn't. He kind of has a grudge against Goku, but not to the point where he had in the original. And he also knows no way in hell he could beat Goku. So Piccolo, senses his power. He sees that Raditz is about twice as strong as him, so he doesn't want to, get into a fight with Raditz. And Raditz reaches his power level, and he sees his power level 750. And he's like, "Oh, I thought you were Kakarot, considering your power level." And then he reads like somewhere in the distance power level of 200 and 400. So then he goes over there, and he's like, that must be Kakarot and some other like strong earthling. So then Piccolo, watches Raditz go away, and then he decides to follow him far away because he wants to see what happens, because he notices that he has a tail just like Goku and Bardock. So he's like, this must be another Saiyan. They know what Saiyans are, by the way, because Goku knows what a Saiyan is, and Bardock knows what a Saiyan is, so they would probably tell him what a Saiyan is. So when Raditz arrives, Bardock, he senses someone's power, and he's like, it's very familiar, it's mine. Because remember, familial power levels are pretty similar in Dragon Ball Z. So, Raditz arrives, and he reads the power level. He's like, Father, how have you gotten significantly weaker? I remember you being way stronger. And then he's like, I'm simply suppressing my power level. And then, Raditz is like, suppressing your power level? He's like, how can you do that? And then he's like, it's a technique I learned here on Earth. Your little brother is doing it too. And then he points at Goku, and then Raditz is like, dang, he looks just like you. And then Goku's like, hey, it's me, Kakarot. And then Raditz is like, nice to meet you. And then he's like, I came here to win a fight against Frieza, and actually Vegeta has sent me out to look for anybody who could be of help, and that they were gonna arrive shortly after I contact them. So then Bardock is like, okay, you could tell Vegeta and Nappa to come here. And then he's like, but before anything else, and then Bardock punches him in the face, and then Raditz is like, oh, what? Why'd you do that for, right? And then Bardock is like, I had to destroy your scouter, and I couldn't have told you to take it off because they're probably watching us through the video and through audio right now. So Bardock is like, I made sure not to hit you too hard, Raditz. Come on, you're a warrior, you should be used to that. And he's like, damn, it still hurts getting punched in the face by your father. And then, mind you, they're all at Kami House right now, just like in the original. I forgot to mention that, because Goku did train with Roshi, so he probably would have gotten an invite entered. And then Bardock heard that there's gonna be food, so he came. And Grandpa Gohan is also there. And then he's like, that's Goku's brother. I'm happy he's not the one who came. And then Nappa and Vegeta are where they were in the beginning. and they decide to head to Earth. So they start going to Earth, and then a year passes, and when they arrive, they come into the mindset where they're gonna, I guess, kind of put Bardock and Goku in their place, because they want them to know what the hierarchy is like around here. So actually, Raditz had been there, and then Bardock was like, Raditz, we need to train you up, you're too weak. And then Raditz was disgusted. He was like, training? Like, Saiyans don't need to train. And then Bardock is like, that is why you're so weak. And then he forces Raditz to go train with him and Goku. And Goku actually bodies Raditz the first couple like weeks and months, and then until Raditz actually gets stronger. So we'll go over power levels again. So Bardock's about power level of 40,000, because he didn't train as much as Goku and Raditz. Raditz is about power level of 17,000, and then Goku's at power level of about 55,000, and he's stronger than Bardock right now because Goku is a martial artist and he knows how to optimize training, especially with a sparring partner. So I think he would actually become stronger, and also I think he has a higher potential than both Bardock and Raditz, and he actually has like a potential around Vegeta. I think a little higher than his. I think Goku just gets strong really like fast, which is kind of normal for like Saiyans. Like Saiyans get strong really fast, but Goku has that at like a accelerated rate. So by the time the Saiyans do arrive, they get into a little argument about who's in charge, and Bardock is like, you could be in charge, Prince, I don't really care. And then Vegeta's like, who are you giving all that lip to with power level of? And he clicks the scouter. He says 400. And he's like, I know you could suppress your power, unleash all of it. And he's like, and now why would I do that, especially with your scouter on? And then Vegeta's like, And he's like, oh, I forgot, Prince, you can't read power levels without a scouter. And then Frieza, who's actually listening to this, is actually interested. It's like reading power levels without a scouter. That's very interesting. And then what's it called? Goku and Vegeta and Nappa and Raditz, they get into a little bit of a tense argument, and then Vegeta's like, why are you being so disrespectful to me? And then Raditz is like, calm down, Vegeta. And then actually Vegeta's mad at Raditz. He's like, Raditz, who are you talking to like that? And then he goes to hit Raditz, and Raditz actually dodges it. Now Raditz is still strong, weaker than Vegeta, but he's really close in terms of power level. So it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to for Vegeta and Raditz to actually get into like a pretty serious fight. So they start boxing, battling, and then Goku goes to step in, and then Nappa actually walks in front of Goku. So where do you think you're going? And he actually reads out Raditz's power level, and he sees it's about 17,000, and he's like, that's impossible. No way he's gotten that strong. And he reads Goku's power level, and Goku's power level is still suppressed, but it's not as heavily suppressed because he was about to step in to help Raditz. So it kind of rose a little bit, and now it's at 2,000. It's like 2,000 is pretty impressive for a low class Saiyan trash. And then Goku's a little annoyed by this, and he's like, I'll show you low class. So then Goku powers up to his full power of 55,000, and then Vegeta and Raditz stop fighting, and Raditz and Nappa stop fighting, and then Bardock gives a little bit of like a prideful smirk, and he's just happy that Goku quiet all of them just by powering up. And he's like, no Saiyan has ever been stronger than a power level of 30,000, and me and Kakarot have surpassed that. And then Vegeta is like, no way. And then this point is where Frieza's like, no way. And he's like, them damn monkeys. The Super Saiyans must have got out. It was like the only Saiyans to have survived happened to be Super Saiyans. And then Vegeta comes to the same conclusion too. It's like they must be Super Saiyans, right? And he's like, Raditz, you come from a family of Super Saiyans and you're still not a Super Saiyan, right? Because obviously Raditz is weaker than both Vegeta and Nappa. And he's like, maybe reaching a Super Saiyan is maybe you need to train to become a Super Saiyan, right? It's not something you're born with. But he's like, no, that's blasphemy, never. So then and then Nappa's like, I don't care. And then Vegeta's like, wait, calm down, Nappa, right? And he's like, don't get into a fight you can't win. He's like, no, the scout is broken. So he goes to fight Goku, and Goku's like, I'm gonna have to kill you. And he's like, but don't worry, I'll just revive you with the Dragon Balls. And then at this moment, Bardock is like, Goku, idiot. And then he blasts Nappa and Vegeta right in the face, but like very like softly to where it would only destroy the scouters. So then Goku was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you don't think Frieza could hear what you said through the scouter? Now he's gonna come to Earth for the Dragon Balls. He's like, oh, and he's like, he doesn't even know what they are. Why would he come to Earth for the Dragon Balls? He's like, you don't think Frieza's heard of the rumors? And then Vegeta's actually like, I think he actually has. I've heard him mention them before. So either he comes here or Planet Namek. And he's like, damn it, this is bad. He's like, if he goes to Namek, then that's fine. But if he comes to Earth, then we're kind of fried. And actually, Frieza, you know, he overhears this right before the scouter blows up. He's like, I wonder what's so special about these Dragon Balls that they could bring someone back to life, and that they could also invoke so much fear that he destroyed the scouters. And he's like, Zarbon, Dodoria, set course for Earth. And that is where the video is going to end. If you like the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.